Hello, my lovelies. I hope you are well. I was hoping to come live today and see you all face to face, but we are super busy here getting all of your orders out to you, all of summer solstice out, and we are a few days behind because, as many of you know, we are in a heat wave here in the UK, and like many of you, I am also a migraine sufferer. We have talked about it before in group. And I lost a few days thanks to the heat. And I do not touch, I do not make, go anywhere near magical tools, your crystals, anything if I am unwell, because I don't want that energy and that frequency to go into your spiritual tool, whether that be an oil, an incense, a crystal. So yes, we are a wee bit behind. However, I have spent the last good few hours bottling, mixing, and getting on top of things, and I have to now transfer some notes. And then it occurred to me that's probably not going to make too much noise, so why don't I do a voice recording for you guys? So what I wanted to come and speak to you about is a little type of animal, let's say, a little bit of magic. And I know that some of you are going to cringe when I say, because some people have phobias of them, but maybe you would enjoy the story that is to come, and that is to talk about spider magics. Now, first, we're going to go on a little story time with Claire, although today's one does not involve ducks or any other shenanigans, but we are going to talk about the gods and humans and egos and spiders. So let's have a little look at how spiders came to be before we have a chat about their magic and how you can work with spider energy in your own spiritual practice and home. So, a very long time ago, a man had a daughter. She was very beautiful, a lovely young child, but he soon realized that she had a skill, and it was such a skill that people would come for miles to see, and that was weaving. She was almost born to weave, it felt like. She felt it was a gift bestowed upon her. Her family felt the same. Nymphs would come and watch her weave. As I mentioned, people would travel from miles to come and sit with her. They would come to the house and she would sit and she would weave this beautiful art with so much detail, with never so much as a little blemish within it. It was absolute perfection. And one day, when sitting in her home weaving away, she was talking to someone that was visiting and watching her work. And that person asked, "Do you think you are the best weaver?" And she, of course, answered, "Yes, I do believe I am the best weaver." And the other person asked, "Well, what about the goddess Athena? Surely you don't feel you are as good of a weaver as her?" However, Arachne turned around and said that yes, she did believe she was in fact a better weaver than the goddess herself. Now, the nymphs who were listening into the conversation, off they popped, and they went back to Athena and told her what Arachne had said. So, the following day, there is a knock at Arachne's door. She opens it, and in front of her is a crone, a lovely old lady, hunched over, wearing a cloak, who asks, "Is this the place with the woman that weaves?" And Arachne says, "Yes, of course, come in." And Athena, as we know she is, asks, "May I see you weave?" So she watches her weave for a while and says, "That's truly beautiful." So do you think you are a better weaver than the goddess Athena? And Arachne replied, "Well, yes, I do." And Athena said, "Well, what would you say to the goddess if she were here in front of you now?" And Arachne responded, "Well, I would have to say to her that she surely has to admit that I am the more skilled weaver of the two of us." This completely enraged Athena, who then transformed and turned back into herself. Straight away, Arachne stepped back and was like, "Oh, goddess, what is happening?" So Athena turns around to her and says, "So you think that you're a better weaver than I am?" And Arachne replies, "Well, yes, goddess, I think we both have to admit I am." So Athena said, "Shall we, in essence, have a weave off, have a competition?" Of which Arachne is all up for. She just knows she's going to win. I mean, she is the most skilled. So Athena goes first, sits down, brings out all of her beautiful threads and sits and weaves, and an audience starts to build. Nymphs come, the villagers come, and they're watching the goddess as she weaves this beautiful image. And there in the image are all of the gods, their stories, their origin stories, if you like, even her own birth. And around the outside is beautiful olive trees, which is her sacred tree. And at the end, everyone, including Arachne, are clapping, looking at the beautiful work she has just created. So then it is Arachne's turn, and she sits down and begins to weave and goes into almost a altered state, if you like. And as she starts to weave, suddenly everyone in the room becomes bit by bit more horrified as she starts to bring to life all of the indiscretions of the gods, all of their bad behaviors, the punishments, the trapping of women. But the things that she's depicting, what she is weaving, are the rumors of her own world, the human world. They are not truths, they're simple human gossip, some with just a tiny thread of truth that as it got retold and retold, got twisted and turned. Some simply made up, that are stories that get told and passed down in families about the gods. As she finished her work, she turned around to the crowd and Athena, who stood there in silence. And Athena went, she inspected the tapestry, and there was just not even a drop, there wasn't a blemish within the image. It was absolute perfection. But the blasphemy that she saw within the image enraged her, and she picked up the paddle and threw it at Arachne's head. As it hit her head, it brought her out of the trance-like state that she had been in, and she suddenly realized what she had done, the magnitude of the mistake that she had made. And she knew that she was going to be punished beyond all punishments, And in her heart, she knew that punishment would be that she could never weave again. She felt it. And before anyone could stop her, she grabbed a rope, ran out the house, and hung herself. Everyone standing around was in complete shock, and all turned to the goddess Athena, where a single tear fell down her cheek. And she herself was horrified at what had just taken place. So she made her way outside to stand in front of Arachne's lifeless hanging body. And it was there that she decided that there was too much talent here to be wasted, for her never to weave again, and such beauty to be lost. So as she looked upon Arachne, the rope began to turn to a silver thread, and Arachne herself began to twist and turn and move and transform, until eventually she became the first spider. And for the rest of her days, she would live out weaving as much as she wanted, as long as she wanted. And she was made immortal so that she would never have to be away from her weaving. So many see this as a gift from the goddess Athena to Arachne, regardless of what had just happened, and an acknowledgement from Athena of the talent and the beauty that this woman could create. But unfortunately, in that moment, her ego had taken over. But she was not willing to allow there to be this loss. And that is how the spider came to be. So when you see a little spider in the corner making a web, or out in the garden in a bush, and you're looking at that web, you can think of Arachne, and you can think of Athena and how the spider came to be. So spiders are extremely magical beings. I know a lot of people have phobias or fears of them, don't like them in their house. A lot of people are, quite clean freaks and don't want a single cobweb in their home. However, I encourage you to think of spiders in a slightly different way. Now, spiders, they can weave and they can weave and they can weave, and they create such beauty. So you can work with spider energy for abundance. You can work with spider energy for strength and courage when you need it, because think of the strength of that web. It's so fine, yet you can see webs outside in the winter and the wind is blowing, but it's not destroying that web because it is extraordinarily strong in its makeup. So if you need to call upon really intense strength to get you through something, if you have to power on but you're finding it so difficult, you can work with the energy of the spider. Spiders' webs are also very sticky. They catch the spider's food in them. So they also are very, very protective. Now, I like to allow spiders in our home. We have an arrangement with our spiders. If they stay from mid-wall to ceiling, they are allowed to stay. If they come down lower than that, they're going to be removed from the house, because as much as I like working with spider magic, I don't want them crawling on my face, because that's just going to freak me out. So that's the rule in our house. And we are not manic ceiling dusters. I like to leave the corners be, especially, this little spider. Half the time you can't even see them. They're so small. And realistically, who's looking at the corners of your house? But no, we leave the spiders to create their web, because that webbing is so protective, because it's so sticky. You can use it in your protection charms, your protection jars. It is especially potent for your own home and property protection, because that spider has made that web in your house. So its energy, its frequency has aligned with your home, has aligned with the energies of you and your family within the home. So it is extremely protective for the household. So adding it to your protection jars for the windowsills, the front doors, or charms. If you don't make jars, you make charms. You can make a pouch even for your car. You can make a blend that you can take around the outside perimeter of your home, or across the front of your front door and the back door, and put some spider's web in there. Now, a word about collecting your spider's webs. We never take a spider's web from a spider, okay? Spiders, they don't stay in place for too long. They move around quite a bit. They like to make their webs when conditions change in the home. They'll move on because there's a bit of a draft here, it's a bit too hot here, and they move around. And this is the time of year they are generally really starting to get more noticeable in the home. So if you just are patient, that spider's going to move on in a week or two. And then they're going to leave their web unattended, and you're going to see that it's an old web, because old webs, because they're not cared for, they'll start to get little holes in. Maybe they'll bunch up a bit. They might have some dust on them. You will know that there's no spider present. Then you can go up there, swirl your duster around, or occasionally I've gone around with even a match or a wooden stick. My own preference that I really like to do is to use the stick from sage. So I have sticks from our own sage plant outside, but you can save the sage sticks from inside your bundles and use those. Really good magical tools. And just twirl it around, clockwise in the web, and it will just gather it all up. You can gather it up and put them in a jar, and then give your house a nice thorough clean and get rid of any leftovers until you need some more. So just be mindful, we never take the spiders home from the spider, because that energy will then reflect in our magic. Now, the other way that you can use spider's web is you can make an oil with spider's web in it that you can anoint your doors, you can anoint your windows. Bear in mind as well that although it is very protective and it's really potent magic for home protection, it's also got a caring edge to it because of the care the spider put into it, the upkeep of it. If there was ever a hole or a blemish, or they'd finished a meal, they have to repair that section. So again, that care energy is in there. So you can repurpose. There is so many uses for spider's web in your magics. Such a versatile energy, really wonderful for oils used for divination as well. And you're not harming any animals. You're not using, an animal itself. You're just using the webbing, and they have already discarded that, gone on and made themselves a better home somewhere else that you probably can't see them just yet. Now, another way that some people like to work with spider energy, this likely won't be for most vegetarians or vegans. I can't speak for all because there's such varying views on many, many things. But occasionally you may come across a dead, dried up spider in your home, on a windowsill, in a corner somewhere. Some people, it's not for everyone, but some people will collect that spider because it died of natural causes in the home, it's dried out, and they will use that in their protection magics or make an oil from that. That's not going to be for everyone, but it is something. I'd always like to give you all the options, all the way you can work with that magic. But note, we are not going and we are not killing any spiders for our use in our magics. It's only if you come across a dead spider in your house, a dead spider in your garage that has already died. Chances are you're going to, because we come across them all the time in the garage and things like that. So if you want to use them in your magics, it is a way you can ask that spider, are you okay with me continuing to work with you and your energy? And in all honesty, most of the time, they love it. It's not something I do very often as part of my practice because I prefer to work with spider web, but spiders like to have their energy continued on. So they're actually really great. I've done journeys with them. It's really great. They love the use of their web after they've finished with it. Also, if they have not been harmed by you and you have just come across a dead one, they have no issue with you working with spiders in that way. Other ways you can work with spiders is work with a spider as a guide to take you down into the lower realm to meet with the animal spirit guides there. Spiders make wonderful guides for that kind of journey work. You can work with spiders to help you connect to your spirit guides on the whole, to help you connect better during divination work. There's just so much there when it comes to the spider, and you can go back and you can work with that energy. Remember the origin story there. So for example, if you wanted to temper your ego, if you felt there was a situation that no one was getting through and you felt maybe my ego's getting a bit in the way here, or you want to do some shadow work around something, then working with spider energy. Because remembering in the story when Arachne, her head was getting a bit big. It went from being a wonderful gift that she never boasted about, she just enjoyed her art, to turning around and stating how she is the best. So there's that quality there within the spider energy for you to work with. You can also work with that energy for weaving, knitting, any kind of craft using threads. You can call upon spider energy or Arachne by name and ask for assistance with your art. So that's another way to work with that energy as well. Some people work with Arachne as a goddess these days. It's a very modern take on her. I've literally only seen it in the last sort of 2 years. What I would say with that is go with how you feel about the situation, but I would not work, if you already work with Athena or you want to work with Athena, I would not work with Arachne as a deity. It's always important when you're calling upon deities during ritual, meditation, journey work, prayer, whatever it is to you, that you do know their backstory and in essence who they've got issues with or background with, so that you are not calling upon other deities that perhaps wouldn't be welcome in the space, or calling upon Arachne as a deity, which then you can see the conflicts there. So if you're interested in more, I've had a lot of questions lately about the deities. If you're interested in learning more about working with the gods and goddesses, meeting with the gods and goddesses and having experiences with them, journeying with them, welcoming them into your home, specifically altars for deities and matron patron deities, then check out the Academy website. You can also, there is a link at the top of the page on the main website if you need to get to the Academy site. But we do have a self-study course called Meet the Gods and Goddesses that is all video based. There's PDFs. I mean, there's Classroom, just like all our courses, but it's a self-study version over on the site for you. But I really wanted to come talk to you because we are in summer now and the spiders are now coming out, and you're going to start to see some spiders' webs and be bringing them down with the duster or the hoover. Maybe this story time with me and chat about spider magic will make you think a little bit differently and perhaps collect that spider's web up. So, my lovelies, I hope you are all well. I will speak to you all very soon. Please do not share the link to this video outside of the group. It is a group only content. That is it from me. Blessed be.